today we are doing the Sugar and Spice bag by Chris W. Designs. You probably can't really see it because of my print, but it has two front slip pockets, which you can mirror on the back if you want to. It's got a recessed zipper. And then in the inside, we've got a zipper pocket and slip pockets. Now, I did a Tory size pocket because that's the template I've got, so I like to do it as much as possible. In here, I have used hefty interfacing, which is Vilene 1050F, and I've used quilt batting because instead of fusible fleece, but it does the same thing for the most part anyway. I still like this bag. I think it came up really well. I've used a faux hide looking vinyl from Spotlight. And then I've used a lot of rivets, and I talk about these in the video. So if you'd like to see how I've made this, stay tuned. Let's get started. So I am going to start with my straps. I'm going to do half and half straps because I like them. The vinyl that I'm using today is like a faux leather from Spotlight. It's not called that when you go on the website. It's called like something collection and then a number. But it's got like a nice, I chose it because I've got black vinyl. It is a little bit thinner than vinyl because it's a pleather, I think. But it's got a nice texture to it. So it does look a bit cowhidey. And I just thought that that was quite appropriate to go with the horses, since a lot of horse saddles are leather and stuff. So how I'm going to do this is I'm just going to pinch it together like this, and then I push down. And what that does is it gets the join right in the middle. Now, see, if you go back and watch some of my earlier videos when I learned to do this, I sucked at it. It actually took me a really long time, but I'm now better. So this is now how I do it. I find it quicker. Well, at least it's quicker than doing one side and then the other. So now that's down, because it is lighter, it does stick and fold quite easy, but it's not stretchy, which I like. If I had got a stretchy vinyl, I would have interfaced it with at least a medium, but depending on how thin, I might also think about interfacing it with the hefty. So hefty is what I use and sell. I only sell things that I use. So it's Vilene 1050F. So it's a heavy, non-woven interfacing, which I use on the outside of the bags. So the outside of this bag has got the hefty, and then I've also put on some fleece, and I'll show you that in a sec after we've done our strap. So I'm going to go up to a 4 stitch length. Now, with the straps, I just folded them into the center. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is fold down that raw edge. So I've made the top strap 1/2 inch shorter than the bottom one. And this is just going to give like a cool accent look so that you still see the vinyl on top and it doesn't look like it's an accident that it's there. If you do them too close together, it looks like you didn't fit it properly. Whereas this looks more deliberate, I think anyway. Someone pointed out to me the other day I need to fix the timing on my machine. I am aware of it. I'm not a mechanic. I don't really know what I'm doing. And there's nobody around me locally that can do it. So part of me is trying to hope that it'll hold out to the end of the year. And then hopefully I'll move somewhere that's got closer access to machine service people. All right, so I've deliberately cut these longer because you never know how much you're going to tuck under. So I'm just going to chop off that excess and just leave a little bit extra and tuck under the raw edge as we get to the end, because we don't want to see the raw edge. If you're using strap ends, you would just pop them on and then you wouldn't see it anyway. So you wouldn't need to tuck it under if you're using strap ends. But if If you decide halfway through that you want to, it doesn't matter that you've tucked it. The strap-in will still fit over. All right, so I'm going to just pop under the second one. So again, I'm going to tuck under that edge like so. Line it up on the edge, pull that one out so it's out of my way and I can get this one underneath. And then just chain stitch them together. So once I've done a little bit, make sure I stop with the needle down. I can just cut this one off. And I'm going to hang it on my zipper jig. So that's where I hang my straps so that they don't fall on the floor. I tend to not knock them when they're over there. So I'm just lining this up in the center as I go. I'm trying to not pull on the fabric because I don't want it to stretch. Sometimes the machine can't help it and does it anyway. Needle down, pivot, back the other way. And back stitch there. Now I'm going to trim off those tails and I can set the strap aside. So the straps are done. I always do the straps first because usually you've just got a fresh bobbin and it's nice to do it with a fresh bobbin. So we're going to work on the outside first. So these are the slip pockets. I have done all of it with a woven interfacing because I didn't want them too thick. Last time I made this bag, I also put the piping in here, but I'm not doing piping today either. I'm not inspired for piping. So I'm going to go back down to a 2.5. And yes, I need to be inspired to do piping. So I'm going to stitch along the top of both of them with the right sides together. Making sure I back stitch at both ends. And then I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to stitch along the bottom of this one. And back stitch. Lift that up. Trim it off. Now, because this is a curve, the best way to get the most out of your curves is to get some zigzag scissors, or I call them zigzag scissors. They're called pinking shears. It's not as much fun to say. Should nickname my scissors Ziggy, I think. Right, trim off the excess. So what these scissors are doing, for people that don't know and wonder why they should go out and buy them, what they're doing is because there's that zigzag right near the seam, it's allowing the fabric to be able to move more freely up against the other side of the zigzag. So I'm going to show you what that means in 1 second. So I don't think I've ever explained this to you. And you may not know. So when we turn this through, because it's got like basically little divots, when we turn it, it's got more chance of being able to flex around the curve. So if we hadn't clipped this, you wouldn't get this curve as nice. It'd be more rigid because there'd be all that fabric in the way and it would try and cross over each other and create bulk. So by cutting that down with the scissors, it creates a nicer curve. Now I'm just going to top stitch, making sure that that curve is right on the edge. Now if you want to, you could iron this, and then this one we're going to turn through. Like so. And then I'm still just going to stitch the top curve on this one. So this is your back pocket, and then this one's going to sit over the top of it. So if you've got one that's prettier than the other one, think that through and make sure that you Don't stitch the bottom of the prettier one because that'll be on top. I'm doing the one that kind of looks like my husband's horse on top. Okay. Then you just want to kind of roll this bottom down so that it's sitting on the fold, right on that edge. So you can roll it out in your fingers. You just pinch it and then roll it like this until you get that edge right where you want it. And then I'm just going to finger press it. So that's the pocket. Oh no, I did it the other way. So I've put the other one. So this is what we're aiming for. We're going to have the 2 pockets. The piping does look nice to do, but I also understand that some people struggle a little bit with piping. So you don't have to do it. I did this in the sew along, but my video deleted itself. So we're doing it here now, so it won't do that. So I'm going to take my main panel. And I have put, I've got fleece, but it's not actually fusible. What this is quilt backing because I just had a scrap of it lying around. And I have used basting spray to spray it on and hold it in place. And you'll notice that it goes all the way to the seams. This is so I can stitch the wadding to the bag. And so later on in life, it won't just try and sag and fall off. Also, it's not that thick, so it'll be fine. So I've got my fabric, then I've got a layer of hefty, and then I've got a layer of fleece to make it firm, but not crazy firm. If you wanted it a firmer bag again, you would use foam. So now that I found the center of that, I'm also going to find the center of this. We find the center of everything. Centers are my friend. I mean, you can measure it if you want to. I don't want to. You can fold it in half and put like a crease, or I can put a clip like this to find the center. Sometimes I do the clip, like on this I will, because I need to see where the center's going to sit. But sometimes I just clip it. Most of the time I clip it because it's easier, but you don't want to clip this because we're having a nice non-raw edge right here. So I'm going to line the clip up with the center, and then this is where I'm going to stitch my pocket. Now, the pattern says to do 4 of these and do 2 on each side. I just want to do 2 because I wanted to have that look of an actual front and a back. You could also just instead put a zipper pocket on the back and put a little vinyl accent around it. That would also be cute, and it's only just occurred to me, so I haven't got that cut out. And trim off all those tails and throw them in the bin. All right, and so then we're going to grab our second pocket and lay it on top, like so. Now, these raw edges I'm not worried about because that's where our strap connectors are going to go. So, now that I've got this pocket, I'm actually going to start from this top edge. I'm going to stitch all the way down across the bottom and back up, and that's going to hold all the pieces in place in one big fell swoop. Needle down, pivot, now I want to do that pocket on the back. I still might, yeah. Alright, and then back stitch when we get to there. Now that's holding all the pockets down, and I had minimal tails to trim off. So this is now what we've got. You could also do this in accent. This would also look really cool in a plain color with an embroidered horse on it. Again, I didn't think of that till right now. Or I probably would have done that. So you can do anything. It's quite adaptable. I like this pattern. I made this in red sugar skulls last time. I think it sold in about 20 minutes. This is a really cute bag. All right, so I'm going to put the double-sided tape down the center of my strap adjusters. Now, because I'm using the vinyl, I haven't used the piece that the pattern come with. I have just cut it twice the width of my rectangle rings. And then I've kept the length that they had. So the pattern has X length. This is what this one is. I didn't change the length. I just changed the width because mine are made of vinyl and not fabric. And so I didn't need that extra bulkiness unnecessarily. So here's another little tip for you. If you're making straps and it's thin and you're worried about how thin it is, what you can actually do is stick webbing to the inside. So where I've just folded, before I fold, I would put down the double-sided tape, then add a piece of webbing, and then put another piece of double-sided tape, and then fold the edges over. And what that would do is basically make it as strong as webbing, but without seeing the webbing. So you could still use your, stretchy pleather or whatever you've got going on. So there are solutions to almost every problem. Almost. Sometimes melting your vinyl, there's no solution. You just got to unpick it and change it out. Or if you're raging angry, throw it in the bin. I don't advise that. That's obviously a waste of materials, but I have done it. I'm not going to lie. I made so many mistakes on a bag. I was just too tired to sew, but I wanted to do it. And I ended up throwing it in the bin because I trashed it. Not deliberately, but these things happen. So again, I'm going to pinch both together. You don't have to start at the edge. It just means if you don't, you've got to go in both directions to do the pinch. Pinch it and then push it down. And this may not get it perfectly in the center, but it does pretty well. And I find it quicker than drawing a line. Then I'm just going to rub this on the edge of my table. It makes it nice and flat. Oh. 3. Let's do the other one off. Right. So they're all now done. So we're going to start with the side that has the pockets, or if you've got both sides with pockets, that's fine. Start with whichever. Because the main reason we're doing that, and I'm just measuring this down to fold it over. The main reason we're starting with this pocket is because this is going to indicate where things are lining up. So this strap, I haven't made it too long, but it just needs to come down a little bit. So apparently this is going to have a lot tucked under because I don't know what I've done, but that's okay. Right, so you just want to line it up like this. But we're going to flip it over so that that joins underneath. I'm not sure what I did. I think I've cut the wrong piece. I think I cut it way too long. Anyway, it doesn't actually matter. I can either cut it off or I can just tuck it under like that. So that by tucking that much under, it just means that it's going to have a lot of extra hold. So this piece, the center of this, needs to line up on the center of the edge of the pockets that we've just stitched on. So that's why we're starting with this side. And that's where it's going to sit, like that. So now that I know how much I've got to tuck under, I'm going to copy this for the rest of them. So we're going to take the rest of our rectangle rings and I'm going to hold them in place with clips because we all love a good wonder clip. I've also gone back to my black skull. No particular reason. I just felt like it. Right, so we're just going to line this one up at that end like that. And then bring that up and over and down. I'm going to put one clip up the top to hold the ring in place. And then on the other side, I'll put one down the bottom. And this is how I'm going to operate. So I'm going to do all of them now so that they're all the same. I could also just measure it against my table. That also works. But not everybody has a measurement thing on their table, so this is how you can do it without one. 1 and 2. But yeah, You can cut some off, but I want to add extra rivets down this because I think it's going to be really appropriate for the style that I'm going for. So we're going to do that. So these extra bits will probably be helpful. Okay, so now they're all even. I can stitch some of them on. So we don't want to start with this one because we still have to measure where the pockets are going to go. We can take this one. And again, you want to have a longer stitch length when you're stitching vinyl. If you're doing the fabric handles, that's fine. You can do whatever you want. But vinyl, you don't want to over perforate it because it'll tear. And that's obviously not what we're going for. Another option is because there's so many, you could actually not even stitch this to the bag. You could have top stitched it and then used all the rivets to hold it in place. But I've picked this colour thread as a nice contrast, so that was a deliberate choice. You'll notice it's not black. And then, boom. So I will, in fact, put the rivets down. So we're going to grab the rivets out in a minute. But I'm going to stitch all 4 on so that I can just do all the rivets at the same time. There. Going across. And then down this side. And back stitch. Trim off the tails. And so that side is now done, except for rivets. So, now what we want to do is get a ruler and measure from the center out to see how far out we need to go to copy the straps for this one. I mean, the idea is they sit in the center of the thing, but you also just want to know for a fact that that's what we're doing. So I'm going to take a friction texture, which is erasable, and I'm going to measure out and up. And this line is the inner edge line of where we need to do it. So there. Like that. And so now I've got the lines of where I need to go. It does actually tell you all of this in the pattern. I just don't have the pattern up today. So this is how you can do it without having the pattern right in front of you, I guess. All right, starting at the edge again. We're going to stitch, we're going to back stitch. We're going to line this inner edge up on that marking. And then up we go. Needle down, pivot across, pull the clips up as we go. You could have also added more clips if you need to. And now, if I leave that like that, that's really going to annoy me and hit stuff. So I always tend to fold it or roll it over so that it's not hitting the inside of my throat. Because if it hits a certain spot and kind of jars, you're going to get dodgy looking stitches right where that happens. So that's a fun way to not do that. Last strap. So again, line it up on this edge. Start from the bottom, back stitch, lock them in. Even though we are going to stitch over that later, it's fine. And again. And then a little back stitch at the end. And our straps are now on. So I'm going to get my cam presses and my rivets so that we can make this more decorative. So I have here my normal double capped rivets, which I've separated into separate containers because it's easier. And then these ones here are slightly smaller and they're only single capped. So the post back actually has a hole in it. So I'm going to use a combination of these to do the back because I think it's going to look cool. And it's a good way to use these up without throwing them out. Because obviously I don't throw out anything that is useful. That's silly and wasteful. So I'm just going to punch my first holes at the top like this. I'm going to do it to all four. So these top holes are going to have the big rivets so that when I attach the handles, it matches. That's the main reason why. So those first four holes are all going to have these double capped ones. So I'm going to push the post through, put the cap on the back, and then squish it down. Now I find, because I'm a business, 2 cam presses is a game changer for anyone that's considering it, because I've basically always got these set up as rivet and hole punch. But when I'm doing grommets, or like the big eyelets, I can have one as the hole puncher and then one as the grommet squisher. I know that's not the real word. Right? So I get a little bit of a production line going. And I just find it easier to not have to constantly switch these out. So if you do only have one though, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to punch all of your holes and then come back and push them all through. You wouldn't just punch these 4, you'd punch like, oh, I don't know how many I'm going to do yet. That's why I'm not giving you a number because I don't know. So, I'm going to get a ruler because rulers help my life quite a lot. And then I'm thinking I might just, because it's black, I'm going to use my Chaco pen. I might do them 1 inch from the last one. So I'm going to put one there. And then one there. 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm not going to go any lower than that because then we're getting dangerously close to the seam allowance and you don't want to sew over one of them. It's not going to work out well for you. So that's how I'm going to work it. I'm going to do, so my top one's about, from the stitching, it's just under 1/2 inch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're doing 6, 2, 4, 6. So I'm just making a lot of crazy lines at the moment. And then we're going to repeat with the other one. 1, 2, 3. Don't know why I'm counting. 2, 4, 6, because otherwise I forget how many I'm doing. That's why I'm counting out loud. 3, 4, 5. Now I'm not worried about all my chalk because it literally just rubs off with the cloth. Damp or dry, it actually doesn't really matter because it's chalk. Right. So now I'm going to punch all my holes. I'm going to get comfortable. I actually grab it and pull down. I only stand above it when I'm trying to cut grommet holes because I find it's much, much easier. This way is going to work just fine for me today though. Can even move along sideways if we need to, like this. You could have also stitched like a fancy pattern down the handle. I always thought about doing like a zigzag or a diamond. I still might yet. Not on this one, obviously. Maybe I'll do it on Thursday's video. So while I'm here, I'm just going to keep on going. You'll also notice I don't have to let this all the way up. I just have to be able to get the fabric to the next one. So I'm not letting it go all the way up and then all the way down. It's more work on your arm. I mean, if you're into the workout thing, by all means do it, but... Right. That's a lot of holes. That's a lot of rivets. Right, so I'm going to rub off the markings now. Because it's going to be easier to do when there's no rivets in your way. You can even use your sleeve. Look at that. Beautiful. So with these posts, we're going to go from the bottom to the top. Like that. And then pop it on. And press it down. Now I'm not going to make you watch all of these. But we are going to watch one whole side. So you can at least see what it's going to look like. So you can even, while you're upside down, you can just push all the posts in. If it's firm. If your hole's too big, when you flip it over, they're obviously just going to fall out. So you'll have to do one at a time. My hole punch, because I know you're all going to ask me, is 2 millimeters. It's the one we just saw. All right. So they're all poking up. Sometimes it doesn't completely cut off all the stuff and you have to pull it off or snip it off. And then you'll hear these kind of click. Maybe not on the camera, but there you go. You would have heard that one. So they click on. And so now they're not going to fall off because they've clicked in place. I mean, you can still separate them if you pull them apart, but it's not just going to fall off. And so now we can just go along and squish them all down. And you get this really fun look. How cool is that? Looks all fancy. So I'm going to go repeat that with all the other bits and then we'll be back. All right. So now that they're all on, how cool does that look? I really like it anyway. So now we're going to stitch the two sides of the bag together. So I'm going to go bottom to top, back to adjoining stitch length, back stitch. I think this bag's made differently in the pattern instructions, but I'm going to do it this way because this is what I'm feeling. There's more than one way to make pretty much every bag. Lots of things can be done in different orders and it still turns out the same. So, bag base. I'm going to fold it in half and find the centers. Oh, I haven't put the embroidered logo on the bottom. Oh well. And then I'm just going to snip where the center is on each end, like so. And then, with right sides together, we're going to take Scully and the Wonder Clips. For anyone following along on my Facebook group, my finger is feeling better. It got caught in my horse's tail and then ripped off my fake nail, which hurt a lot. It's still sore now, but I just kind of keep it up out of the way and it's doing all right. So I'm clipping, I started in the center and I'm radiating outwards with the clips and I'm just doing up to the straight edge. So I'm not going to do the curves. I'm going to flip the bag over, pull the base up and go join the other side. Right there. So I'm matching those center nicks that I've made because centering everything is the easiest way to measure. Moving outwards. And then what you should find, if the pattern's awesome, which this one is, you should find that that end should just perfectly fit in. We still put clips on it though, because I don't trust them. I'm also going to open this seam out. So if you've got a domestic, definitely do this. Open the seam out so that it won't be as thick when you're stitching it, because that is pretty important. You don't want a super bulky seam if you don't need it. Now I've used my base stabilizer interfacing on the bottom of this to make it more solid. You'll also notice because it's solid, it's helping the bag sit out and it's not slouching anywhere, which also makes the insertion of the base much, much easier. Lots of clips on the curve, and then we're going to flip it, open up the seam, do the other side. So with all of those rivets that I've just put on, it'll do one of two things. It'll either, ow, that hurt. It will either make the bag stiffer, like I've used foam, even though I haven't, because I've used fleece, or it'll make the bag heavier. But I'm thinking it's going to be the first, like when I say heavier, like, and it won't sit up flat. But I think because of the vinyl and then the rivets, it's just going to help the bag, give it just that little bit more stature, I guess is the word. I don't know. So I'm going to start just off the curve, but on a flat bit, because it's always easier to start and finish on a flat bit. So we're going to stitch, we're going to back stitch, and then we're going to stitch around. Now I'm lifting the bag up because it's a 3D object and you need to treat it as such. Oh, I should also warn you, hubby is in the shed today, so any noises you hear, sorry. Like right now he's playing with, I think the grinder or the sander. I don't know. So again, I'm lifting it up, I'm stitching around, I'm picking up the clips and putting them away as I go, because lots of clips can get in your space and it can make you frustrated when you're trying to do tricky stuff. So I personally have found if I put them away, they don't annoy me. And then when you get back to the start, back stitch. Voila. So, see this? This is totally normal. It's got like a buckling thing because technically the outer curve is bigger than where we're trying to sew it. But there are no puckers in where I stitched. It's all on the outside and that's totally normal. And I'm saying this in case you're super new and you're freaking out because it doesn't sit there. So long as it's sitting flat in your seam, you are fine. And then I'm going to come and I'm going to cut all that off. I don't want to get too close to the seam allowance, but by cutting off about half of that excess, this is now going to sit nicer when we turn it. If your zigzag scissors can handle it, I suggest that you use them and do that. Okay. Outside is done. And you know what? It does stand up by itself. Look at me go. Okay. Lining pieces. There's a lot of lining pieces because I'm doing a lot of pockets. So we've got two of our mains. And then I've cut the big slip pocket. And then I've cut two zipper pockets. So this is the Tory pocket. This is 8 by 12. I can't remember what the pattern had. But this is just what I'm used to. So that's the size we're going to do. Because that's who I am. Right, but we are going to start with our big slip pocket. So we're going to fold it in half, because it's a square. We're going to fold it in half, right sides up to right sides down. You don't want to do it sideways, obviously, because it's a print issue, and your pocket will have all the horses sideways. And now I'm just going to stitch from the curve to the corner, needle down, pivot. We're going to leave approximately the middle section open. So I'm going to go to there, I'm going to back stitch, that'll do. Then you can either trim that off or you could have just pulled the fabric in and started back again. I want to leave a smallish gap. The bigger the gap, the harder it is to match up. Oh, I just dropped a bunch of stuff. That's right, I'll pick it up when I do the ironing. So again, trim off the tails. So I've basically left enough to be able to get my hand in. Zigzag scissors again. Trim off the excess in the corners so that we get nice pointy corners, because I love a good pointy corner on a pocket. Unless it's meant to be curved, in which case doesn't count. Right, like so. Push it to the bin. And then put my finger, push it into the corner, do this with my hand, and then push out the other corner. So come in, grab a finger, push it out with the thumb. Fake nails definitely help me because I can't grow real ones. Helps me to get nice pointy corners. But if you don't want to get them, I totally understand. They are a nuisance half the time. Like ripping off my nail, for example. So if you can't get the corners super duper pointy, what you want to grab is your stiletto or sewing awl. So mine is actually a double-ended sewing awl because my mate bought one at the same time and she wanted both the quick unpicks. So it worked out really well for both of us. But these usually come with one quick unpick and one sew awl. But I don't use quick unpicks. I think they're evil. They've trashed more projects than they've saved for me personally, and it's probably misuse on my behalf, but I will stick to my snips. So what you do, anyway, I digress. Getting angry about something I don't own. So you're just going to push it into the corner and then we lever it out to get the corner to come out and be pointy. That one's actually pretty good. So in here, see how it's a bit rounded? You can just, so you can either stab in between the stitches because you can see them and then push the corner out, or you could lever in if it was a lot less turned and pull it out. It goes either way. Anyway, my stiletto does get used quite a lot. So now we're just going to tuck that under, like so, and I'm going to flip it so that the pattern's right side up, and I'm going to top stitch along that top edge to close the hole and to give a nice top stitch. The other way you could do it is have the joint at the bottom, so when you stitch the pocket down, it's down there. That's your choice. All the way across and back stitch. If you find when you're pulling that out it doesn't come out, rotate your needle till it's all the way to the top and then it will just release for you. Okay, grab one of your lining panels. Now I probably could have done this pocket in the outer fabric, but it's done now. So we're going to need to find the center anyway, so may as well do it now. Trim that off. Then with this one, we're just going to find the center and we're going to crease it. So I'm going to use literally the scissors. And it makes a good enough crease that you can see it without having to iron the whole crease in. And then that is going to sit there. Now you can do some cool funky stuff if you want them to sit up. So first what we're going to do is I'm actually going to stitch the center first and then I can make them sit up, which is kind of fun. And this is a different way to the way I usually do pockets. So there you go. So I'm going to stitch and back stitch all the way up and then back stitch when we get to the top. Trim everything off. Throw your tails in the bin. It's really handy to have a bin right at the end of my table. I can just push it off and it falls in. So, all we want to do is I'm going to take a ruler, and this is like a really dodgy way to do it, but it's also really quick. So I'm going to line this up at that edge And then, so it's 1 inch in, sorry. So I'm going to line it up at like 1 inch. And then I'm going to lift this up and place it there and stitch it down. And then it's lifted. And then I can do the same on the other end. I know this seems a little bit crazy, but we're also going, so I'm going to make it flat to here so that the fold comes to the center like this. So that the base is going to look lovely. And then I'm going to get to there and I'm going to stop because I obviously haven't measured the other side yet. So I'm going to put the ruler in like this. And then I'm going to push that to there. And then I'm just going to push all that excess until it comes and meets up with the other one in the middle. And yes, this is literally how I would do it off camera. Because otherwise I've got to rule a lot of lines. And that way I just skip them all. Because I would have still had to have measured everything. Now I just don't have to draw the line. And backstitch. So now that is both in the center, they are raised so that they're decent pockets. And then the join is in the center bit like that. How cool. You could have also put this in the bottom seam as well, but I like to keep the bottom seam as minimal as possible. So that's why I've done it that way. But you could have just sewed the edges, turned it through, and then had the bottom edge line up with the base. That also would have worked for you. Now, I probably don't actually need 2 zipper pockets because I don't think I'll fit one above that now that I've done that. That's okay. So I'm going to grab one of these. And I'm going to fold it right sides together. Now, I want to draw on, so when the pocket's in, right, this is the way to work it out. When the pocket's in, you want the back piece to be the right way up. So this is the side I'm going to draw the zipper section on, so that when you look into the pocket, the print is the correct way up. Now, obviously, this doesn't matter if you've got a non-directional print, but unless you always do planes and non-directionals, it is handy to know that. So I'm going to grab, what size is that? That's the wrong one. I'm going to grab my zipper template because they're easy and I love them. And then I'm just going to measure. So the way I measure this, actually, it's got all the inch marks. Oh, let me put my hand there so you can see. I put the fabric in line with the top of this line so that it's a little bit down from the edge. It's about 1/2 inch. It does the job. And then I can draw the zipper rectangle. Now those are the zipper swatch templates. You get 6 different sizes, I think. 5, 6. I don't know. They come in like, you get all the sizes from 5 inch up to 12 inch. And you can use these for both size 3 and size 5 zipper. People quite often ask me which one they're for. The answer is you can use them for both. So you draw directly, you sew directly on the line for a number 3 zip. And I draw just outside the line or on the outer edge of the line for a size 5 zip. And that's how I work that. So center of this. So again, if you need to, you can clip the center. I don't know. You could also just find the center of all your pieces right before you start. That would also help you. So about there, that's where I want it to sit. I don't want it too close to the top because I still need to put in my recess zipper. So actually I might move it down just that little bit more. So I'm only going to sew the long edges. This is my latest obsession. I don't sew the short edges because I find I get a cleaner turn through. I'm going to backstitch. I'm going to pivot all the way around. And then I'm just going to jump over to the other side. I'm not going to trim that off. I'll do it later because it's quicker. And I'm all about quickness and speed. Then I can trim off the tails, and I'm just going to cut, that's called a jump stitch. I'm going to cut the jump stitch like that. You want to cut both sides because you don't want it to obstruct anything when we're about to do the cutting and turning. So I'm like, where did I put my scissors? I'm going to fold it roughly in half and just make like a small snip. Now, if your hand can't squish your scissors, push down on the end. And it just makes it, why am I putting them away? Just makes it much, much easier. So I'm going to trim. And I'm going to do the same triangling out of the corners. We just don't have that flat piece on the edge to contend with. And I'm finding this way quicker as far as turning goes because I haven't done that short edge. I don't have to mess with the corners as much. Now, I'm still going to finger press that up and finger press this one down and then shove the zipper pocket through. And I'm still going to hook my fingers in like I always do, but you'll just find it sits nicer quicker. I know it's technically not sewn there, but you're about to top stitch over it, so it doesn't matter. I really want that seam to sit right on that edge. So you can iron this. Just hit my finger. It's fine. I'm trying to keep this finger out of the way as much as possible. Okay, grab our zipper. Now, I like my zippers to close to the left. That's who I am. You can definitely put them in the other way. I don't unless it's a specific customer request. And then I'm just going to make sure the pocket is flat and open and lay it over the top of the zipper, matching the edge of this zipper tape with the edge of your fabric because I cut them the same size. That way I don't have to deal with any raw edges. Another fun thing I've been doing lately, and I'm quite enjoying, is I pretty much zip the zipper all the way to the left, flick it out of the way, and start just after it with my top stitching. Now, I'm not going to back stitch because I'm going to go all the way around. I have to grab that corner because I didn't iron it. And just tug it out of the way. And the reason I'm not back stitching is because I don't want to see a bulky amount of thread if I can help it. So getting this close, so I basically stop where I started. Then I'll unzip that little bit and finish. This is the way that I've been finding is the less fiddly, I suppose is the word I'm after. And then when I get back to the start, then I'm going to do 2 back stitches and that's it. So that there's nothing bulky. And even though I'm using a contrasting thread, you can barely see the start-stop points. So, zip it open so you remember for later. And then if you just pick this up, the pocket should fall down perfectly in place. So I'm going to pull back the side and I'm going to stitch and back stitch and just stitch the 2 sides. Now I know a lot of people tuck back that edge. I don't at all. I'm okay with it. Some people fold that edge so it's easier to sew up later, but it's fiddlier now. And I'm just used to the other way. So I don't do it. Okay. I'm going to get a drink and then we are going to finish it up. But also my phone was going flat. So I've had to plug it in to continue videoing. So these are the zipper parts. So what I've done, I'm just going to open one to show you. I folded down the raw edge on both ends. And then I folded it into the center and then in half to get these beautiful strips that only have no raw edges, but only 3 sides open. So what we want to do is we want to take our zipper and I'm going to crack an end. I don't know why I call it cracking an end, but I'm going to crack an end. And then if you want to, you can sew it down. But what I'm actually going to do is pinch it, I'm hoping. So pinch it down like that and then put it so that the raw edge of the zip lines up into the gap. like this. I also don't really want to see the zipper tape. There we go. So I want it like that, and then I'm going to put a clip on it. Haha. Then I'm going to take this side, I'm going to do the same thing. So, you want to think about which direction all your pieces are. So that head is technically on that body. So I can either flip it over and have it so that the bodies are facing in, or I can have it this way so at least all the pieces are facing the same way. Your choice, dealer's choice, I guess. So I'm going to just, okay, this is the easiest way I've just found to do this. So I'm going to hold it like this, and then I'm going to bend it under like that, because I don't want to see the teeth at the end. I want them to be hidden. So you can even put a clip on the teeth at the end, and then bring the zipper around so that it's even would be nice. Even would be lovely. In, down, and then to there. And I'm going to add a second clip. And then I'm going to take this one out because it's obviously wrong. So I'm going to go in, clip, down. Now, the reason my zipper is still attached is because I want them to sit evenly. It's very important to me that they're even. Otherwise, you're going to have a crooked zip. And you can fix that at the other end, but, you know, each their own, I guess. All the way in and then down. How's that? Yes, that's better. Right. Clip that in place. This is really not working out for me. I don't like this way. I think I prefer to just tack it. Everybody's always on me about doing it this way. I'm not a huge fan. Not gonna lie. Maybe just because I'm not used to it. Definitely not a huge fan. So, now that they are finally even, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the zip apart because I'm happy. I'm not going to mess with that end of the zip, but I am going to slot the rest of the zipper into the cool zipper tab thing that we've made. So you're going to make sure it's in between. You want a little bit of zipper tape showing so that you can zip it up and unzip it easily, especially if you're using like a big bulky chunky zip. You just wanted that little bit out, and then I'm going to clip it in place. And then you're just going to let the tail hang out the end because there's no raw edge there, so it doesn't matter. Right. Then we're going to do the same to this one. So again, open it up, pop it in there, clip her down so it stays, and then I'm just going to run, so I'm just using my fingernail to kind of pull out those zipper teeth just a little bit so that we're not going to stitch on or too close to them. And then more clips. You could also use pins. I'm not a big person on pins with bags, but sometimes they do work in your favor. Okay, this is what we've got. Put them together. That's the right way up. So now I'm just going to top stitch the 3 open edges. So I'm going to stitch and back stitch. Needle down, pivot up. I also need to be conscious about what my thread is doing because I'm pretty sure we are nearly out. Needle down, across the end, and back stitch. Then we can grab our other one. Doesn't matter which end you start from. You'll find that if you're keeping the bulk of the fabric out of your machine, you'll start at opposite ends. So this time I'm starting where the teeth are folded in, and I'm going to pivot and go down towards the base. pulling those teeth out. Needle down, pivot off towards the end. So that closes that edge as well. Ta-da! So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the zipper pocket lining panel and I'm going to make sure the zip's up the right way, and I'm going to make sure that both the zips are going to close in the right direction because that's important to me. And then I need a ruler, and I'm going to measure where it needs to go, which is there. Although we also need to find the center. So again, in half, we're all about the center. Zipper teeth up. And that's the center of the fabric, not the center from the end of the zip, because this is our excess, so it opens up better. There's our center. That's the wrong way. And that is where I want to stitch it down. So again, all these measurements are in the pattern. I am just not telling you. And I just ran out of bobbin thread 4 stitches ago. Alright, I'm going to roll it, well not roll, I'm going to do another bobbin and be right back. I have remeasured where this needs to sit, and we're going to do that again. So I'm just going to top stitch this down, basically. And then back stitch when I get to the end. Trim off all of my tails. That's done. But before I go, I am going to take this zipper tape and fold it back and clip it so it is out of my way. Very important. Okay. So then this one is going to go the opposite way. Center. Center. That's where it needs to go right here. Like so. And then we're going to back stitch in that corner as well. And I'm going to do the same thing with that tail, is I'm going to move it out of my way. And by clipping it down, it now won't get in my way. And I like that. So I'm going to build the inside the same as the outside. The pattern says to do it the other way. So you'd stitch this first and then join the sides all at once. But I've started this way now, and so I'm just going to continue with it. Otherwise I have to go and do a lot of unpicking I'm not interested in. And this is the way apparently my brain just wants to make bags. So again, you can do this a completely different way. I could have stitched all the top, and then the sides, then the bottoms. Now, with the base of this bag, I am not sewing it shut, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to fold it in half. Find the center of both sides, because we're going to need that later. And then I am just going to join that center with the center. And I'm just going to use one. And I'm just going to sew the straight edge. And that is it. Because now I will be able to turn my bag through the bottom, and I will deal with the rest of the bottom in a minute. Okay? So, now we've got this. We're going to turn this one the right way out. It's always easier to turn the lining right sides out than the exterior. because you're going to do a lot more turns, and then if you've used like a nice vinyl, you're more likely to crease it. Now, pocket is on this side, so I want the zipper pocket to be on the back edge, so I'm going to flip the bag so that the center pocket is on the back edge, like that. And I'm going to start with my side seams. So I'm going to open up this end so that there's less bulk, and then open up this end. And add 2 clips, 1 to each half. And that way it will stay open. Then I'm going to come and do the same to this edge. So I'm going to fold that open and flat. And then I'm going to get this side seam and I'm going to flatten that out. So if you're on a domestic machine, this will make it easier to sew over. Not that it's super thick to begin with, but if you've made an all vinyl version, you're definitely going to want to do this. So now I can just move my way along and pin it all together. When I say pin, I mean wonder clip. I don't actually mean with pins, because that's far too complicated. And time, well, it's not complicated, but it's definitely time consuming. Clips are faster. Alright. So that's one half clipped. So now I'm just going to follow the other half. I'm really sorry if it annoys you that I do it in my lap, but otherwise it hurts my arms trying to do this for 5 minutes. I am not into fitness all that much, and so my arms can't hack that. Okay, nearly done. And then I'm just going to stitch all the way around the top. Sounds simple? Probably is. The curves might be a little bit tricky, but we're going to find out in a second. Now, if you've got a cylinder arm, now will be an awesome time to use it. I do, but I'm going to stick to one machine. I don't want you to feel like you can't make this just because I switched machines. But if I was on a cylinder arm, I could just, you know, have the cylinder there and just around I go. But instead, I am going to do it from the inside of the bag. Now I'm going to come start at a side seam. No real reason, I just feel like it. You can start wherever. So I'm going to move those out of the way. I'm going to stitch, back stitch, and then just follow the curves. And I'm going to move the bag around as I go. I'm going to stop and clean up my clips because they're annoying me already. Basically, as soon as they start to get in your way and you feel like you're swatting them, that's when you should stop and clear them out. They are not doing you any favors being there. Oops. Again, pull the bag around. You can then squish it down and backwards. Back stitch. Trim like that. And before we turn it through, you want your zigzag scissors again. I'm sure you're sick of me saying that by now. Don't really care. It's what they are. Make zigzags. Pinking shears is a little too professional for my brain anyway. So again, the zigzags are going to make this curve sit really nicely. So if you don't have zigzag scissors, that's a good point. Get your snips and just do little snips every, you know, ½ inch, ¼ inch, 3/8 of an inch in between. There you go. And that will help the curves move. It just takes longer than zigzag scissors. I used to have the Triumph ones from Spotlight. They were pretty good. The Semco ones are terrible. And these Fiskars ones are amazing because they're spring-loaded. So they don't hurt my hand when I use them. The grip's also got, it's just nice because you're not putting your thumb into a specific hole. So there's no pressure on your thumb with these ones. That's why I like these. But these scissors are better at cutting vinyl because they're better at getting through bulk. So that's why I have so many scissors. They all have a purpose. They all work better for one thing than the other. Right. Now, because the whole bottom of the bag is open, you should be able to pretty easily turn your bag through. I'd be surprised if you can't. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my flute cleaner, which is, if you've never watched a video, I use a flute cleaner as my turny stick. And I do that because I literally just jab it in corners. It's my jabby stick. And then I'm just going to push on the base seam with my stick. And what this is doing is it's pushing the seam right out, so everything's sitting beautiful and flat. See? Look at that. So that's actually turned out really, really nicely. Look at that. Now I need to deal with actually closing the bottom. So I'm going to stick my hand into the zipper pocket and I'm going to grab both sides of the lining and I'm just going to pull the lining back through, well, not back through, it hasn't been through it yet, through the zipper pocket like this. And yes, it looks messy. Just bear with me. You've already marked your center, so go and line that up with the center on the other side, which is over here. Once you got your centers, you'll be fine. And then you're just going to clip the rest of the base. Now, I felt that slip. Remember what I said about more than one clip or it slips? I felt that slip under my hand. And it was about nearly ¼ inch out after I just pulled that. So you just continue. You want to open out this seam because we've done it everywhere else. You're going to open the seam out. Center. Clip. Now, I'm going to stop pinning because I know what I'm doing without clips. I don't do it with exteriors, but linings I can get in without clipping at all. So I'm just going to start where my stitches ended last time before we turned it all through. And I'm still going to back stitch because I want to lock it all in. And then I'm just going to sew the base on. You want to flip the bag over and around as you're going. Like so. Basically, I'm just using my fingers as clips to hold it into place when I get to it. That's just a practice thing. Once you get really good at clipping, you'll find you'll be able to do it without it. But it's like it's a stepping stone. You have to start with clips to get the feel of the motion of the corners. I know that sounds ridiculous, but one day it will just click with you and you'll understand what I mean. So now I'm going to cut off the excess around the curves like we did at the base. And I'm using my zigzag scissors because it's what's best for lining. It's going to give us that nice ability to flex. You don't have to cut off your long edges if you don't want to, but by doing so, it's going to help it sit flatter in your bag. So because I want it to sit flatter, if I cut about half off, it's now going to be able to sit more into the corners and sit flush. They don't have to be zigzagged at the straight bit because they don't need to curve. They're straight. It also doesn't have to be perfectly neat. If it looks a bit hacked at, that is also okay. So now, pull the lining and it comes straight out of your zipper pocket and back into your bag. Ha ha. Now before I close this, I'm going to stick my hand into the bag and I'm going to push up at all of those curves so that the seam is not lost within the bag. So I'm just scratching at them with my nails, is pretty much all I'm doing, to make sure that the seams have come all the way out. Then I just take my fingers and I'm going to fold it down. I'm just going to fold it with my knuckle. So I put my finger like this, which is like halfway past, and then just turn down and pull. And that tucks in an even amount because your fingers are even. I know they're a little bit out for someone that's going to tell me that, but for the most part, they're even enough. And then just top stitch the pocket closed. Now, if you have a fabric tag that you put in your bags, this is a great spot to put it. Because before I made bags, used to pull tags out that were in my way. So if you've got a tag hanging out the side here, I was very likely to cut it off because it's wrecking the lines of my bag, and I don't care about your tag there. But if you were to put it in a pocket, I would always leave it. I would then remember where I got it from if I ever wanted to go see if I like anything from their brand this week. And it's not in my way. That's just how I feel about that. You can obviously ignore my advice if you'd like. But I know that there's a lot of people like me out there that are likely to pull it off, which is a waste of money, and then they won't know where they got their bag from. Right, top stitching. We're up to top stitching. So I'm going to fold it over and I'm going to add some clips just to help hold it in place. See how that's come out nicely? See how that's curving nicely? We're winning. So I don't want to put them too close together. I'm probably going to put one every inch-ish because it's just to help hold this down while I top stitch it. It's already joined, so this is not joining together. This is just holding down the edges. Really? Oh, I also forgot to mention, at this side seam, if you were using a domestic, possibly clip down that excess to make it easier to do your top stitching. Because this is all fabric, I'm not going to have an issue. So I'm okay. And this machine can handle it anyway. But if you were doing this bag in all leather, for example, you might want to cut little V's out of those corners where they join so that there's not as much bulk when you go over it with top stitching. The less amount of layers, the easier it's going to be. Alright, clip, clip, that's enough clips. Now, again, cylinder arm, away you go. I'm going to stay on this machine, as promised, but I am going to turn the bag inside out because I want to stitch with my top stitch on top. Now, I'm not super worried with how turned it is. That's enough. I just need to be able to lay the bag down and start on the top. So I'm going to crank it up to 3 3/4, which is my top stitch length today. Sometimes I crank it all the way up to 4, depends on what I'm feeling. And I'm going to start at a seam. I'm not going to back stitch because I'm going to come all the way around. It's like a fancy loopy circle. And I'm just going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Now, if you're new to top stitching or you've never tried it and the idea terrifies you, do a full 1/4 inch. It's easier and it will still look good. There's nothing wrong with 1/4 of an inch. I like 1/8 of an inch because it's what I've practiced. But the 1/4 of an inch just gives you a little bit more control over the bag because there's more foot underneath. And you're less close to the edge, so you're less likely to slip off. So don't be scared of top stitching. Please do it. Just make it thicker. how the clips have like helped hold everything, so I can top stitch fairly quickly. I don't have to constantly be like tugging at the fabric. The clips are holding it in place. Now always stop with your needle down and then grab your bag and bring it around some more. Don't stop with your needle up. Now I'm getting close back to the start. So I'm going to trim off these tails so that I don't stitch them in because they were pretty much just touching the needle. And you don't want to stitch them in up here. Then you got to sit and like unfiddle with them. And then when I get back to the start, I'm going to go 3 stitches forward, 2 stitches back. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And that's my stitching and back stitching. And that's what it looks like up close. You can barely see that I've done back stitching. That is not going to be noticeable if somebody walks past your bag. They're not going to see that. They're just going to think it's like smooth and glorious. All right, turn the bag back out now because we are done-ish. We're nearly finished. We're not quite. We've got to add handles and we need to put our zip on. Otherwise the bag technically doesn't close. So, zipper. These ones give me grief. I bought these to put on the website, and I find that 1 in 5 is dodgy and won't go on the zipper tape. So I am not selling them, and I just throw out the dodgy ones as I find them. I don't know why they don't, but sometimes they just won't go on the zipper tape. So, to do this, you can use a zipper jig, or you can do it... You know what? I'm going to use a zipper jig. Why not? It holds on my double-sided tape, so I've just got to take all of that stuff off. My zipper jig, my beautiful husband made me. It is awesome. It is an easy grip clamp with a fork that has just been bolted to it. It is great. It's nothing super fancy, but I tell you what, it works. So, I like to put my zippers right sides up. Some people like to put them in upside down. There's no right or wrong. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just showing you what I do. So then, I'm going to feed both the sides in, hopefully equally. And you just want to push on them. Or pull on the tape. It depends. And I think this is a dodgy zip. Oh no, there it goes. And then once it's on... You want to zip it all the way up. See how my edges aren't even when I've zipped it up. You can't probably see. See how it's not sitting even? This side is higher than this side. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to unzip and I'm going to put this side of the zip in first so that it goes further up and then it's going to match at the end. See that? See how now it matches up. That's what we wanted. And then the end of the zip just looks like that, but that's okay, so we're going to cover it anyway. If you've got a zipper end doodad, now's the time to put it on. I don't have one of them, so I'm going to put a zip end in vinyl, which I think I've lost. That's all right. We'll come back to that. So, see how cool does that work out? I like it. Straps we need to attach. So, lift up or go over to your hole punch. Now I'm going to put 2 straps together and then fold them in half and make sure all those raw edges are lined up, and I'm going to squish them all at once. The vinyl is pliable enough to do that, and then I'm going to measure down to the next bit, there, so there, and I'll punch them all at once as well. That is the beauty of a hole punch as opposed to a hand punch. You can do multiples. So then I'm going to go up and around, and I'm going to use my double cap larger size now, because now they're going to match with the top larger one that we put on our straps to begin with. we're going to get our press, stick it in said press, and squish. And then I'm going to put it in the other side. So I always run my hand along it to make sure it isn't twisted anywhere. Because while I can get rivets out, I tend to not want to. It's frustrating and fiddly and nobody likes to do it. Nobody likes to make mistakes, really. It didn't punch through my fabric as much as I need it to, so I'm just going to snip it with the snips. Come on. Apparently I didn't quite punch my hole as well as I thought I did. That's okay. Oh my god, I think I need the hole punch again. This is just not working out. Oh, that was a lot of fiddling for nothing. Twist it. If you're worried about the hole, then it'll definitely work. Okay. So, again, smooth. Bring it around so that there's no twists. And then I'm going to push the post through. You can go front or back, it doesn't matter because they're not like the other ones. They don't really have a front and a back. Once it's squished, you can't tell. You can do the same on all for continuity's sake, but it's fine. And then, so that's one handle. And see now, it looks cool with the two big ones. You got the two big ones and then you got the rest of the little ones. So I'm going to go up through the bottom again. Poke that through, bring it round and up. Squish the end on. And again, it clicks into place so that you've got a little bit more kind of a wiggle room, I guess. And then up the bottom of the other side. Now, if you bought strap ends, which I probably should have done, but anyway. If you got strap ends, you would put these on the opposite way so that the strap ends are facing out. Because then they're like a detail with the metal edges. But when you don't have the metal edges, you want to hide them because they're not as exciting. See, look at that. So all that's left to do is the end. So I have to go and get another piece of vinyl because I cannot see where it's gone. I found it. Right, so this piece is double the width of the zipper tape by the width of the zipper tape. And what that's going to give us is a square when we fold it in half. So it'll be a square tab. I'm just going to singe this. So I want to use some double-sided tape because it makes it much easier. And recently I like to put 2 strips. So instead of just one down the center, I now do 2 because I find it holds better and doesn't twist as much while I'm trying to stitch it. So we're going to do the 2 strips. So different zipper tape can come in different widths. I have purchased in the past zipper tape that's like 1.5 inches, which is wider again. Why is that sitting funny there? I need to push out this edge so that it sits up straight. See, there we go. That's better. And again, you could have used foam if you wanted it super sturdy. It's whatever you feel like. It's your bag. All right. So I'm going to hold it in half, but have a little gap. And then I'm just going to shove the zipper tape halfway in. Like that. And then if you squish it all down, it should stay perfectly where it needs to. Like that. So now we just need to stitch it down. So I'm going to use the same top stitching I already have going on. And I'm going to go down like a side first. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to go back through the first hole. And then I'm going to twist along the bottom. Move that because I'm about to knock them all. Up the edge like so. And then I'm going to spin the bag outwards so I don't have to bring it all through the machine. I'm also going to hold the tails so that they are out of my way and stitch finally across the zipper. If you do that bit last, you'll also find there's minimal slippage. And there you go. Your bag is done. So you've got a slip pocket here and then a slip pocket there. And then it's zippered with a slip pocket inside and a zipper pocket as well. So, I hope that was a helpful tutorial. I love this bag. These always sell really fast when I make them. And this month I'm actually going to have time, so there you go. Alright guys, until next time. Bye-bye.